Welcome to the Richard Doyd USA YouTube channel. I'm Richard Doyd. All right, in my previous video, I had made a fairly complex network, completed a fairly complex network configuration. You can see it here on the screen. Again, about 4 different networks, again with DD-WRT and the MR7350. Now, while I was premiering that video, I got a very interesting question from Mr. Ron Helton. Will this work with a metal shop that is about 100 to 150 feet away from a brick house? Okay. I said, yeah, it will. Note that you'll have to run an Ethernet cable, see the video description, for your home, from your home to your shop. Now, the configuration I showed here in that video, the previous video, was actually creating an access point in a remote location up to 328 feet away. Which you see here on this video. But what if you just wanted an access point out in your garage without all that stuff connected, all this stuff connected? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to give you various options on how to do it and show you what would be my preference or my way of doing it towards the end of the video. So right here, you can see you've got a 300-foot cable going to a garage workshop. Now, you know, if you use just an Ethernet cable with 2 RJ45 connectors on, one on each side, ran it out 328 feet to your workshop or to wherever, and plugged it into the back of your computer or an Ethernet device of some kind, like, let's say, a laptop or a PC, well, that would get you internet out in your garage, but only on your PC, and that would be it. But that would be, this simple setup would be enough to get you internet in your garage if that's all you needed, So this is scenario 1, probably the simplest one. And I need to say that the router, the primary router, can be any home router. Most will work without any modification on this setup or any setup that I'm doing in this video. This video is basically creating an access point 300 feet away using Ethernet. I generally don't recommend using a Wi-Fi extender for doing this because it's just Wi-Fi internet connections between a router and a Wi-Fi extender are generally very poor, especially if you're going 300 feet. Now, on my primary video, my first video, the situation I showed you at the start of this video, you can see all this complex stuff and that the primary router was using DD-WRT. But again, in this video, we're just using a plain old router, whatever you have. This can be, a Linksys, a TP-Link, or even an ISP provided router. We're not modifying it at all. We're just leaving it alone. And I'm going to show you the 2 different settings that you may need to use to adjust the access point to your router, but still your router will remain just like it is. You'll leave it alone. So, first solution, Ethernet cable all the way out to your garage, plugged into an Ethernet port on a laptop or a PC. That will work. Next solution, you may need more than one Ethernet port, so then you can use something like 5-port switch, as I show here. I have one here, and I like the metal casings, but you can get a little 5-port switch like this for about $10 on, actually $9 on Amazon. And actually, the performance on this little plastic switch here, 5-port switch, is every bit as good as the performance on this metal housed 5-port switch. They're both gigabit Ethernet switches with 5 ports. So again, your choice. I just prefer the heavier, more solid case. But as I said, the plastic one will work just fine. Now you put an Ethernet cable out to your switch. And by the way, these switches, all the switches I'm mentioning in this video, are completely plug and play. You don't do anything except turn them on, plug an Ethernet cable into them, and you're done, right? There's nothing to do. They're plug and play. So you plug and played a Ethernet cable into that. Now you've got 3 more ports or 4 ports to attach whatever you want. And if you need more, well, we'll go to the 8 ports switches, which I also have here. Again, metal casing and plastic casing. Of course, the plastic's going to be cheaper. But, again, I'll put links to this stuff in the video description. Performance is exactly the same, regardless of whether the casing is made out of plastic or metal. So, once again, in the video description, or in the pin comment, first pin comment of this video. So yeah, that'll give you 7 more ports. But still, I know what everybody's gonna say, but I want Wi-Fi. Okay, let's go next. Now you can use something like a switch and access point like this one, or this one here. This is a TP-Link. This is a 10 that's on the screen. These will work, no problem. And I got a switch on here, but you really don't need a switch. If all you want is Wi-Fi out in your garage, all you need is that Ethernet cable plugged into the Ethernet port on either one of these Wi-Fi adapters, and Wi-Fi access points, and you're off to the races. You'll have Wi-Fi out in your garage. Those options are pretty cool, but if you hook it up to a switch, off you go. You've now got Ethernet, 3 Ethernet ports out there on a 5-port switch, and your Wi-Fi hooked up. And I will put a link up here to show you how to set up these access points, because I do have a previous video showing you that. Again, if you need more Ethernet ports with your Wi-Fi, just buy an 8-port switch and off you go, right? Again, switches are plug and play, no problem. Then all these devices can be connected out in your garage, workshop, garden, shed, whatever. And actually, this will also work inside your building as well. The only real way that I recommend extending your network anywhere, even if it's to another room or another floor in your house, is to use an Ethernet cable, hardwire it. Wi-Fi extensions are just you're not going to be happy. And for the extra cost that it costs to have the Ethernet cable run to wherever you're trying to extend your network to, it's well worth it. Trust me on that. Right. And if you don't believe me, just try it. You'll see the difference. Once you try the Wi-Fi extension way, you'll want the Ethernet, no problem. So we've got this situation right here. So what are the pros and cons to this? Well, easy setup, reasonable price, excellent Wi-Fi 6 speeds, and it works well. You can see the pricing over here varies from $27, $39, or $40 all the way to $74. The cons: limited configurations options, no guest Wi-Fi or IoT isolation. None of these access points that I've seen, and I've looked at dozens, have the ability to give you a guest Wi-Fi. They just don't put that into these devices. Security updates are dependent on the manufacturer's timeline. So if there's a security vulnerability found on those devices, it's up to TP-Link or Netgear or whoever to come up with a update for that to fix it. And they're not usually very timely on that. And updates in hardware are limited. They will time out as well, end of life. So the devices are only supported by the companies that make them for so long. At a certain point, they just go, see ya, we're done. It's been 2 years. Have a nice day. Buy another one. That's usually how that works. So understand that if you buy one of these, after 2 years or so of using one, or maybe a little longer, the company's just going to say, see you later, we're done with that. And then you'll just have to go buy another one, which again, not very expensive here. We're talking $30, right? So 2 years, $30, not bad. Will require purchase of an Ethernet switch for additional Ethernet access, as I showed. We'll use one Ethernet port on your switch. So if we go back here, you can see it right there. Uses up one Ethernet port, leaving you with 6 in this case. And in the 5-port, it's 3. So yeah, not a bad solution. And then again, if you don't need Ethernet out in your shed, then just take that Ethernet cable, plug it straight into the access point, and then you just have Wi-Fi out in your shed, and off you go. So not a bad solution. Now, notice here that I put a red box around all these 1 gigabit per second speeds on the Ethernet. These access points can go up to, as you can see, at least these ones anyway, 2400 megabits per second on the Wi-Fi side, right? Great, super fast Wi-Fi. The only problem is when you go from the Wi-Fi to the Ethernet, which is where your internet is, how you're going to get internet access to anything connected to this on Ethernet, that's 1 gigabit on all 3 of these access points. So what does that mean? It means that no matter how fast your Wi-Fi is, the Ethernet is going to slow it down to 1 gigabit per second at the most. So it doesn't matter how fast the Wi-Fi is. Now, if two Wi-Fi devices are talking to each other, yeah, they're going to get up to a theoretical maximum of 2.4 megabits per second. But so what? If you're, let's say, casting from your phone to your monitor or your TV through Wi-Fi, your phone has to connect to internet somewhere, and probably that's going to be your router. And your router is limited to these ports, which are 1 gigabit. So it still doesn't matter that this is super fast. So if you're going this route with this access point like this, do yourself a favor. Just buy the $27 Tenda down here, and it will be every bit as good as any one of these three in this video. So even if you just watch the video to this point and you're done, you're going to go get an access point, you know, hey, I just saved you at least $10, probably $20, and set you up with a decent access point at this point. So yeah, this solution works. And again, look at the pros and cons, and you can see why and why not to do it. Now, go next. Here's the prices for the switches too. So if you're going to add Ethernet out there, you're going to add at least $9 more to the price of any of these devices, right? Which again would make this one, what, $35? Okay, right? And, you know, it goes up from there, right? So, you know, take that into consideration as well. So here's my next suggestion. This MR7300 here that I have, you know, torn apart because that's how I play with these things. But this MR7300, you can get this on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or even on Amazon from a range of $20, which I bought two at $20 on eBay, and that's shipped, okay, all the way up to $40 renewed on Amazon. Here's what you get. You get Wi-Fi router that's also an access point, all right? So the access point that I showed here in the previous videos, like this one, is built into this router. All Wi-Fi routers have an access point built into them. And it also has a 5-port Ethernet switch built into it too, right? By default, normally it's a 4-port, but after you're done doing what I'm going to show you how to do next, it will be a 5-port switch. We're going to turn an MR7350 into just an access point. And that access point will be able to be plugged into any network, not some crazy configuration that I had in my previous video. This will plug into your home router without modifying the home router at all. Just leave it alone. Run a 300-foot cable out to your Ethernet cable out to your shed or wherever. It doesn't have to be 300 anyway. A cable out to wherever you want the internet extended to, and this will plug into your router without issue. So let's go next here. Now, here's the setup we're going to have. Like I said, primary router, any router. Right here, you can see this one set to 192.168.1.1, which is typical. If you have a TP link or something different, it might be set to 192.168.0.1, but I will show you both those configurations on the access point that we're making right now. It's just one setting. It's not a big deal. So I'll show you how to find out what your IP address is on your primary router and set this access point accordingly. So let's go next here. And by the way, on my webpage, let's go here. There we go. You will find links to a lot of stuff, like including how to put DD-WRT on an MR7350, which you will need for this video, an MR7350 with DD-WRT. The link's right here on my webpage, Richard Lloyd USA. Also on my webpage, I'll show you under the YouTube show notes, I have diagrams for all this stuff, including what I'm showing you here on the screen. There's the block diagram. But if you scroll down to the bottom, and this one is for the 192.168.1.1 network. If you scroll down here at the bottom, you'll see a DD-WRT configuration zip file. If you click on that, it will give you a zip file to download, as you can see here on my screen. And that is two files, the configuration file for the router and a text file or read me first text file, which will show you how to implement that configuration file. Read the text file before you do anything with the configuration file, because if you don't, you may get stuck. And again, the README file tells you everything you need to do. So if you're going to go with a configuration file from my website, read that file. Now, I also made two of these, and the first one's for 192.168.1.1. The second one is for 0.1. So again, whatever you have, there's a configuration file for you here, and as you can see, and you can download it, and it will set your router right to what I'm going to show you how to do in this video without having to do all the steps in doing it. But I will show you how to do it. So go to my website to get that stuff. Also, you'll see here, I also have router simulators. If you go to router simulators here, you can see that I have a 7350, an EA8300, and my latest little acquisition, an MX5300. And, if you click on those, let's go to the MX5300. You can see that I've simulated what you're going to find if you put DD-WRT on any one of these routers. Again, you can see it on the 7350 as well, right? There you go. Basic setup, everything. Now, this is just for you to play around and see what it's going to look like when you're done installing DD-WRT on it, right? And if you want to see my MX5300, this is a Linksys router. Quite a hefty little unit. It's 3.5 pounds, by the way. It weighs 3.5 pounds. It's hefty. And so 1.5 kilos. It has 13 antennas on it, Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, and 2200 megahertz CPU. So quite the beast, but it is kind of quirky. There are some things that are kind of weird on DD-WRT, so I don't recommend currently going to get this if you're using DD-WRT. But if you're using OpenWRT, works like a charm. I'm using this as my primary router right now as we speak. So, again, something to look forward to in the future. I'll be making some videos on that. And so, yeah, go to my website to get those configurations. So let's move on here. We don't need this up here. So we go to the next one here, and that's the 0.1 diagram. And here's what we're going to have when we're done. Your home router, whatever it is. Let's go one more over here. Yeah, your home router, whatever it is, hooked up to an MR7350 out in your shed, remote location, wherever it is. And it's going to be an access point, and it's going to give you Wi-Fi and 4 ports of LAN Ethernet. And as I said, you can buy one of these for less than $40, just about anywhere. Excellent little router, by the way. And yeah, and just so you know, that other router I just showed you has a 2200 megahertz CPU. This one has an 1800 megahertz CPU. So really, I don't know if you're going to see any difference in performance between the two of them. So what we have here is the 192.168.1.1 configuration. You can see that the second router will be labeled 192.1, or will be given the number 192.168.1.2. So if you have 1.1 as your primary, your secondary, your garage workshop router will have 1.2 as the IP address, as you see here. If you have the 0, well, this is how it's going to look. If you got the 192.168.0.1, you have 192.168.0.2. And I'll show you how to configure that when we get into configuring the router. So let's get into that. Now, first thing you need to do, of course, is install DD-WRT on your router. And as I showed you, there's a link here on my webpage. If we go down to, let's see, right here. Oops, a little too far. This video right here. Don't break it. It will show you how to put DD-WRT on this router. And another note too, if you have another type of router that takes DD-WRT, if you follow this configuration video, you'll probably be able to make an access point out of it just by following what I show you in this video. You just have to change it to whatever's going on your router, but it will probably, I can't say 100%, but it will probably work as an access point if you do it. So give it a shot. If you don't have an MR7350, maybe you have an R7000, it'll work on that. I've done it. So go put DD-WRT on whatever router you're using. And now we're going to go and begin to configure this thing. Here I have my MR7350. And what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to reset the router. On the back, you'll see a little red button right there. Okay, right beside the, oh, I can't see it, right beside the power button, right there, or power cord. And that's the reset. Hold that down for 12 to 15 seconds and you'll see the front light flash. And I'll do that here right now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see it changing. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and there we go. It changes to green. You let go of the button, it's reset. Now that is after I put DD-WRT on it, okay? So I'm gonna let that reboot. Now the other thing we need to do is we need to connect to that router directly. In other words, we need to put an Ethernet cable from any one of the 4 ports, not the WAN port yet. It's still a WAN port, internet port. We need to put a Ethernet cable to one of these 4 ports. Usually I choose the one nearest the antenna, and if you do that, you're absolutely safe. Like that. And then the other side of that Ethernet cable needs to go directly to your computer. So that's step 1. If you don't have an Ethernet adapter on your home computer, basically you should, and the way you can do that for about $10 is to buy yourself an Ethernet dongle like this, one of these two. These are 1 gigabit Ethernet adapters with USB-A connections on the end. This one here is a combo. It has USB-C as well. And you can either get a combo like this or a dedicated USB-A or USB-C Ethernet adapter like these for about $10 on Amazon. See the links in the video description below for those devices. I recommend getting one of those. If you don't have one, you have no idea how handy they're going to be for you if you're experimenting with routers like this. It's just one of those must-haves, right? So that'll work on your PC. It'll work on a laptop, no problem. So we're going to do that, number 1. Second thing you need to do after connecting the router directly to your PC through Ethernet, you need to get off of Wi-Fi because your primary may be on 192.168.1.1, and when you reset one of these DD-WRT routers, it will be on that IP address as well. So just click on disconnect on your Wi-Fi, and now we can connect to the router. Not quite connected yet, but I will be here in a second. Let's do that. And I'm going to use the same port, which is, I believe, port 1 on the router. There, I'm connected to it with Ethernet to that port. It's rebooted. It's got a green light on it. And at this point, you can see my Ethernet starting to connect to it right here at the bottom. So once that happens, we're going to open up a browser. Actually, what we're going to do, and I'll show you how to do this with this router, but I should have shown you already, but no biggie. Once it connects, we're going to go to our Windows button. Here we go. And we're going to go to View Network Connections. If you don't have it there, just type it in, and once you do that, it'll show it to you. Show View Network Connections. You can see that my Wi-Fi is not connected, but on. I got 2 Ethernet connections, and I have a DD-WRT connection here. So the way to find out what your IP address is to right-click this, choose Status, go to Details, and down here, the default gateway is your router every time. So is your DHCP server and DNS server. If it's not 192.168, as you see here, it'll be 192.168.0.1. And if it's anything outside of that, then you're going to have to go and find out what a free IP address on your network would be, right? And look at what your IP address currently is on your computer, which you'll see up here. You can see here it's 192.168.1.185. and choose something like, 192.168.180, or, in my case, I'm choosing 192.168.2 because I know it's free. So experiment with that if you don't have either one of those IP addresses. And other than that, give me a shout, comment section below, and I'll try and figure it out for you as well. So I appreciate that. Now, here, like I said, all you got to do to find that, I'll just recap. Right click, status, details. There you go. Now, I wanted to give a shout out here too, and I'm a little late on that, to my friend here, Mr. Ron Helton, who gave me the heads up about this, problem. He asked this question. So Ron, thank you very much for asking. Again, your comments matter, your questions matter, your suggestions matter. I do make videos from them, and because of Ron's question, this video is being made, which I'm sure will be of help to a lot of people, including Ron, if he doesn't want to do the rest of the configuration. He just needs internet out in his, workshop. So, metal shop. So, great for you, Ron. Thank you. So we've got the IP address. We know what it's going to be. In my case, it's going to be 192.168.1.1. Open up my browser here. New window, and just put in the 192.168.1.1, which is already there. I'm going to refresh that and see what happens. Don't know why that's going on. I'm going to just open it up. Again, that's why I use the private window for doing that, because that was caching my last time I was on there. So I'm just going to do it again, 192.168.1. There we go. So since we reset it, the router is currently not protected, unsafe, blah, blah, blah. You got to put a password in and a username and password. So I'm just going to do that, and I'll just fast forward past this and pick it up after I'm done. All right, I put those credentials in, hit enter. Like I said, I cut it because there's just no point of you watching me do that. I'm sure you can do it, and I use admin as the password. Now, as admin as the username. Now, you can see here that we're into the, I think, status page, more or less. Now, I'm not actually logged into the router right now. It's showing me this without being logged into the router, and it shouldn't be doing that, right? It should be asking me for a password. So this is a default setting on DD-WRT that I don't agree with. So we're going to change that right away. And you'll see here that I'm not logged in the second I click on the administration tab. And like I said, you don't want anybody seeing any of this information if they're not, a user that can log into the router. Basically, you're showing a hacker everything he needs to know about your router. So let's go to the administration tab and fix that. See what I mean? So admin, log in. So let's just fix that right away. The way you fix that is by going here to info site password protection and click on enabled. So once you do that, it won't show that page anymore before you log in. Now, another thing I do is take the HTTP off and change it to HTTPS, right? And the reason I do that is to actually have an encrypted connection to the router, so none of my data is clear text going across my network. It's encrypted, and therefore harder to intercept and decode. Again, up to you whether you do that or not, but that is a security feature. And I'm just going to hit save and apply here and show you what happens when you do that. Save and apply. Okay, I'm going to close the browser off. Go back in. Once again, 192.168.1.1. That's the default for the router. And you can see here that it's asking me to log in, but it's not showing me any information. Isn't that great? That's the way you want that, right? And actually, I'm going to hit cancel on that because I want to go to HTTPS, which is the secure. There we go. And there we go. So I wanted to show you that because this is what every browser is going to do. They're going to go, oh, something's wrong. Well, the reason it's doing that is because the router doesn't have a signed certificate. It's just generated by DD-WRT and put on the router. It's cheaper, and it's like probably next to impossible to get a signed certificate for this router in the way that it's installed. But maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. But here, This is what it says. There's nothing wrong with the certificate. It's perfectly fine. Just click on Advanced and then Proceed. And now put your username and password in. And by the way, that's the way the configuration files on my web page are going to come. They're going to be set to HTTPS, right? Again, read the text file that comes with that zip file. So sign in. There we go. Now we're into the router. You can see now it's showing you what you would get normally without that, what do you call it, info site protected tab. So let's go over to setup. Here, we're going to leave all this alone. Having the connection type set to disabled turns the WAN port into a LAN port by default, right? Because it doesn't need to use the WAN port if it's as a WAN port. If it's disabled, it just goes, okay, I'll just use it as a LAN port. All this here can stay alone. You don't need to change any of this. There's no speed gain made by doing any of that. We're going to go down here. The DHCP function that you see here, the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, that's going to be taken care of by your primary router. So we need to disable that. 2 DHCP routers on the same network, that's just a nightmare. So disable it, uncheck these two boxes. Right here, recursive DNS and DHCP authoritative. Come back up here, change this IP address to 192.168.1.2 as I show in my pictures. We're doing this configuration, 192.168.1.1, so the router is going to be on 192.168.1.2. Now, if you have the other, your primary is on the 192.168.0.1, well, then you would just change this number from 1 to 0 and use that. That's it. That's the only configuration difference between those two router settings. So I'm on 1, so I'm going to keep it on 1. Down here under your time zone, change it to wherever you live. I live in US Central, so I set it to US Central. You set it to what you need. Here, hit save. Don't hit save and apply. Hit save, because once you hit save and apply, you'll lose the IP address. It'll change to 1.1.2 up here. And your DHCP server will be disabled, which means he won't give you an IP address anymore. So don't do it. Just hit save. Let's finish the configuration. Save. Next part of the configuration is all in the wireless section. So here you see the default name from Linksys. We're going to get rid of that. And same down here. I'm going to use my settings or my diagram for those settings right here. And you can see that I used DD-WRT 5G on the diagram. I'm following the diagram on my webpage to a T. So DD-WRT. And this is the 5G, and you can tell whether that it's the 5G because it says it right up here. So this will be 5G. 5G. Back to my diagram. Right here. So, and the DD-WRT for the 2.4 gigahertz is just going to be 2.4G. So let's do that. Paste it in there. Change that to 2.4G. Now, the default settings are 20 megahertz and 20 megahertz mixed, and mixed up here too. So this is probably like the friendliest Wi-Fi settings you can have for, as far as, you know, being compatible to everything on the planet, right? And that's great. And I'm going to leave that friendly setting down here for the 2.4 gigahertz stuff because, first of all, you're probably never going to use 2.4 for your laptop, PC, or your phone. You want to use the 5 gigahertz because it's like 5 times faster. And you know, basically, why would you if you can go 5 times faster? But your IoT stuff, like things like cameras, smart, you know, what do you call it? Garage door openers, stuff like that. IoT devices mostly all use 2.4 gigahertz. So you want that stuff to be on a very friendly network, and this keeps it friendly. And we're going to set up IoT guest networks too for both of these interfaces. But you want the 2.4 to be like as friendly as possible to connect to because of that. So up here, I'm going to change this to ACN mixed. And then I'm going to take this up to 80 megahertz because that's the top speed it can do. And so again, and I leave the channel on auto and auto. You can experiment with those channels, see if you can get more speed out of it. That's up to you. It differs from location to location because your neighbors are using different channels than I am. All right, so you can experiment with that. Here we're just going to hit save again, not save and apply. Remember, keep doing the save, right? We've done that. Now we're going to add the virtual apps. These are the IoT guest networks. So you can give that to your buddy when he shows up. Say, yeah, log into this and surf away, right? And that'll isolate him from your network in case his device is somehow compromised, right? So here we're going to go add virtual app to the 5 gigahertz. And we're going to change this from virtual app to what I have on my diagram, which is number 2 G Wi-Fi 50. Okay, so let's do that. G Wi-Fi and 50. Oops, there we go. And the bottom one's going to be 24. So, which we haven't done yet. So I'm just going to hit save here. We've got the new virtual app, and that's the 5 gigahertz virtual app right here. It's underneath the 5 gigahertz. That's what makes it 5 gigahertz. That, basically shows you what it is. And here we're going to put another virtual app under the 2.4 gigahertz, which makes it a 2.4 gigahertz virtual app. That's how you know. And you can add multiple ones of these. You can add another 4 if you wish, right? Whatever you want, like experiment, right? Really cool. You don't get that functionality with one of these little puppies, I'll tell you that. No way, it's not there. So here, I'm just gonna go and drop that in again. Did I drop it in? Yeah, there we go. Number 2, G Wi-Fi 24, just like I show in the diagram. You can see it right there. Oops, right here. This is the IoT network, isolated network. All right, now hit save again, not save and apply. Now, in order to enable some mode of, isolation, here's what you got to do. Hit the advanced setting box here, put a check mark in it, go down to app isolation and click enable. Hit save. That's the 5 gigahertz. Now we're going down here to the 2.4 gigahertz and app isolation, enable. All right. Now, what I want to explain here with this app isolation is that what it does is it stops devices on that Wi-Fi interface from looking at each other. In other words, if I have my phone on there, and I'll show you it, and the PC on there or some other device on there, and I try to ping that device or see that device, it's not going to see it. So what that does as far as isolation goes, same with your buddy's laptop, if he connects to either one of those networks, is it stops whatever device logs into that network from infecting all the other devices in that network. So if you have 5 IoT devices, one of them gets compromised. Well, whoever compromises that cannot see the other 4 devices. That's the isolation it has. But unfortunately, because it's running as an access point, there is no isolation from the router. You're probably, well, we'll see here, we'll test it. I believe you'll still be able to see the router, but we'll test it and see how that works. So right now, I have that all set up and perfect. I'm going to hit save again just in case. There we go. And we're going to go to wireless security and set up the passwords for this, right? Now, I'm not, again, I'll put these passwords in afterwards. I'm not going to torture you with that. For now, I'll just leave the defaults. But, if you download the configuration file, read that text file, it will tell you what those passwords will be. So here, go to, for the 5 gigahertz, if you want to make it the most friendly, choose the WPA2, and then look what happens, right? It takes the password out. Again, I'll put that in, well, I might as well just do it. Okay, and then hit save, of course, not save and apply, just keeps hitting save. And down here, you see the virtual interface, and security mode is disabled. We need to enable that. So just click on enable, or actually WPA. There we go. Once you do that, you'll get this box, and we're just going to put the check marks where they belong, WPA2, WPA3, and CCMP 128 AES, right? And of course, we got to put in a password. So we'll do that. Let's see if I can copy this one. And I'll skip over the password typing because that just makes the video faster. And okay, so let's just hit save here. Just make sure that doesn't go away. It looks all right. There we go. The next interface is, of course, the 2.4 gigahertz. Click on WPA2 for that if you want to make it completely friendly or, most compatible. And kept the password on this one. Then down to here, we're going to go, actually, no, it didn't. There it is right there. So I took it out. Let's put it in again. All right, save. And now here, you'll see the 2.4 gigahertz virtual interface. Once again, disabled for security. We need to enable it for security. There we go. Scroll down to the bottom of it. WPA2, scroll to the bottom again. WPA3, scroll to the bottom again. CCNP 128 AES, and then put your password in. And save. Now, we've got that all configured. Everything has a password. Everything's configured more or less identically for security. So we're done with the Wi-Fi security. Now over here, go to the services tab. And a couple of things I like to do here. Number one, I want to turn Telnet off, which is a way of connecting to the router, but it's not really secure. So just turn it off because you shouldn't be using that to connect to the router. Now, if you know what you're doing, well, leave it on. Again, this is all about experimentation. I'm turning it off for security reasons. Here, also, I'm turning on Secure Shell, which is a secure way to connect to your router. So hit Secure Shell SSH and click on Enable, and then just hit Save again. Right? That's it. We're now completely configured on this router. I'm going to hit Save and Apply, and then we're going to connect it back to your primary router with that Ethernet cable from the back of it, like I show over here. Take that Ethernet cable, plug it into any one of the 5 ports on the back from your primary router, and then we're going to continue to configure the router. So once again, save and apply. And I think I already hit it, so there it is. Now, if we go, the router should at this point change its IP address. Let's see if it continues on. 1.2, yeah, okay. So it's still waiting to process. And I'll pick this up after I connect mine to the router. Yeah, see, there you go. It's now on 192.168.1.2. We need to connect it to the other router to get an IP address. So let's do that. I've hooked up my Ethernet cable to the primary router. And you can see down here, I've got a connection. So if we go here, actually, we can just probably click on that. Let's see what happens. No, it doesn't give you an option to see it there. I'm going to go over here to my view network connections, and you can see that I'm connected here. Let's see what the IP address says now. So let's go to right click it, click status, details, and you can see now that the default IP address for the gateway is 192.168.1.1, which is what it should be because that's what the primary router's IP address is. And we got an IP address of 185. So everything is working as it should. I am currently plugged into that access point we just created right here using the gray cable and on there. And you can see here, this black cable with the red tie on it is the Ethernet cable going to my primary router. And actually, just for fun, I'm going to disconnect it and connect it to the WAN port right there. I don't know if you can see anything. Yeah, it's lit up. So there we go. I'm using the WAN port as a LAN port connected to my primary router. So, and I still have an IP address over here. Let's go to the router. So 192.168.1.1 does not work anymore. So 192.168. Well, it will work. Here's what happens when you do that. All right. It goes to my primary router, which I'm not logging into here. I'm going to 2, right? HTTPS, by the way, as you can see up there on the address. There, 2, and hit enter. Ta-da. And because I was previously logged into it, it's coming up no problem, right? You may actually have to log into it again. So here we go. Administration, we're on, status, good. And an easy way other than the IP address to see whether that you're on the secondary is that WAN is disabled, right? If you're running DD-WRT on the other router, well, of course, it's going to be enabled. And if you're running anything but DD-WRT on the other router, then this page should not come up when you put this IP address on, when you put the 192.168.1 address on. So again, we're only dealing with the second router. The primary router is whatever you have. Just make sure you're using the right IP addresses. Here under, okay, yeah, this is all normal stuff. Under administration, there is one little setting here that you may want to change if you want to experiment. You can change the maximum frequency to 1800 megahertz, and now it says overclocking, but you're not overclocking it. This the chip inside an MR7350, the CPU, is built to run at 1800 megahertz, but it runs cooler at 1512, so it's up to you. I haven't had any problem setting it to 18 or 15. To me, the performance barely changes, but okay, we'll just do it just for fun. Let's go. Here we go. Save and apply. I'm putting it to 1800. There we go. And that's as fast as it can run. Now, even though I did set it to 1800, notice right here, this little check box, fixed frequency. What that setting does, if you don't check this box, which I'm not going to, is it says run the CPU up to 1800 megahertz if you have to. But if you don't, take it down to whatever is happy for the current load. Right? I like that setting because it means that it's not pinned at its highest speed all the time, even though it's doing nothing, right? So but if you want that to happen, click that checkbox, right? So again, save and apply. And proof of that, I'll show you that over here under the status page. There we go. You can see here, the current CPU clock, it says 1512, right? So even though I did set it to 1800 and now it's down to 1056, it just varies itself. But set it to 1800 and you get the maximum speed if you need it, which is a great thing, right? Pretty cool. So back to wireless, everything's cool there. We've got access to it, wireless security, all our passwords, everything's set. We're ready to go. Let's go and connect to this through. Actually, let's do a speed test right now. So this is an Ethernet speed test because, as you remember, we turned Wi-Fi off. It's still off here, right? So I changed the night mode and changed the server to my favorite, which is Fort Worth. It seems to be more consistent for speed. Okay, allow. And there you go. What a smoking router this is. I mean, look at that. Now, fastest it will go is 1 gigabit per second because, again, that's as fast as my provider can give me output right now. That's what I'm paying for, 1 gigabit. Plus the Ethernet ports on this router, including the WAN port, are all of these are 1 gigabit ports. So there's no way to get any more than that. So 882, really decent speed on Ethernet, right? And again, I'm hopping through several routers to make this happen because you're basically right now on my home network lab, which is attached to another network. So really at this point, I'm going through 1, 2, 3 networks, right? So yeah, it's going to add a little bit of latency, but not much, obviously. And, very happy with that result. You'll probably get better if you have a gigabit per second internet connection. And if you get slower than that, much slower than that, I'd go check your internet connection because you should be getting better, right? So there's that. Let's go and disconnect from Ethernet. I'm just going to pull the cable out from back of it. There we go. And you can see there on the bottom right of my screen that the Ethernet icon has disappeared. And if we look over here under my network connections, it says network cable unplugged. So that's the same as disabling it. So here we're going to go on to Wi-Fi. So turn on Wi-Fi. There we go. And then go to, let's see what's available. It's connected to G Wi-Fi 24 right off the bat. That's a 2.4 gigahertz guest Wi-Fi network. And I guess we can test that. Allow. Look at that for 2.4 gigahertz, right? 184 megabits per second. Like I said, I'm so impressed with this little router. I've got nothing bad to say about this thing. It is an extremely good value. Like, look at that. And it's Wi-Fi 6 as well. So if you go over here to the Wi-Fi settings, if you want to see the information about this connection, click on Info. And you can see that G Wi-Fi 24, Wi-Fi 6, AX, awesome. WPA3, again, highest security setting you can have. And this is on DD-WRT, so it works fantastically there. I'm on channel 9 and 172 and 287 speeds. As you saw, we're getting pretty close to that right there. 168, 35. Let's do it one more time. Allow. Now go back here. Just let it go. See where it goes. Again, it varies, but 170. Look at that. 185. Woo! Man, that's 2.4 gigahertz. That's not even the 5 gigahertz. We're going to test that next. So let's do that. Actually, right here, I'm going to do a little test since it's a protected Wi-Fi connection. I'm going to connect to it with my phone, and I'm going to try and ping the phone and see if you can see it on there. Just real quick. G Wi-Fi 2.4. Connected. There we go. And on my phone, you'll see the IP address is 192.168.1. 192.168.0.202. Okay, so my phone is connected to that same network. If I do a ping to it just to see if I can see that phone, all right, go. Open up a command window, CMD, if you want to search for it. Ping 192.168.1.202. Oops, put the period in there. You can see I get no result from that. Why? Because no device on that network, on the 2 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, will be able to see any other device on that. So that proves that that's working. Let's go test the 5 gig speed. And this time we'll go to a regular one over here. So DD-WRT 5G, there we go. That is a non-protected one. There we are, connected, secured. We'll look at the info, and you can see Wi-Fi 6 again. This time, well, not again. Wi-Fi 6. Well, yeah, again. AX, WPA3, excellent, right? We're connected at 5 gigahertz at the 56 channel at 576 and 245. Let's just do this again because it takes a little bit for it to actually give you the correct speed. It's handshaking, basically. There we go. 1201, 1201. So up and down speed, 1201. Now, remember what I said about that. It doesn't matter how fast the Wi-Fi is because you're limited by your LAN ports, which are 1 gigabit, right? So, don't expect to ever see that speed unless you're testing between 2 Wi-Fi connected devices. And I don't know how you do that. But anyway, I'm sure there's a way. Let's go. Allow again. I'm going to refresh this page in a minute. Yeah, refresh it. All right, I reopened the page just to make this a fresh test at 5 gigahertz, right? Yeah, we are. DDR-WRT, 5 gigahertz. Let's try this again. As you can see, excellent speeds. Wi-Fi only. Look at that. Right? This is Wi-Fi 5 on that access point. So, again, 708. I've seen higher. I've seen, and you saw it go higher on this test. We can try it again here. But, how much better a result you want? This is 700 megabits out of a 1 gigabit connection. And we're on Wi-Fi. So, again, love this router. MR7350. Put links for it on Amazon anyway in the video description and probably in the pinned comment, and everything else will be in the pinned comment as well. I'll hit that one more time here. Allow. Yeah, I mean, just awesome, right? So let's see how high it goes this time. Again, it's dependent on internet speed and them as well. Let's try a different router. I mean, a different provider. So let's try University of Texas. There we go. Find University of Texas. There we are. That seems to be a little faster to get up there, but as I said, see, it varies from provider to provider, right? Yeah. So I'll go back to Fort Worth. Seemed to work better. There we are. Anyway, again, just like always, do me a favor. Put your comments in the comment section below this video. That's it for this video. You know, basically it's configured. Stay tuned for, you know, updates on this little monster, right? Again, don't go out and rush and buy one yet. It's the MX5300 by Linksys. Because from what I can tell, this MR7350 is every bit as good. You know, it's not a tri-band router, but do you really need it? So again, varying results. You saw that it goes much faster. And different times of the day, I've seen as high as 850 on Wi-Fi as well. But like I said, it varies with time and, you know, providers. But again, comment section in the video description below, please put those in there. As you can, you know, tell from this video, it was generated by Ron Helton. And again, thanks, Ron. On top of that, anything you want to say to me or suggestions, questions, those go in the comment section below. I'm there every day. I respond daily, or as frequently as life permits. And I really, really appreciate your feedback. Once again, don't forget about my webpage. Go there to see these, you know, diagrams and download the configuration pages for that, and a lot of other stuff as well, including the simulators, which are very cool. You can see what it's going to look like on your router prior to put it on there. So it's not functional, but it shows you all the tabs and you know, all the little drop downs and so on, right? How cool is that, right? Excellent. And I show it for the 8300, the 7350, and the MX5300 if you want to poke around with that too, right? Once again, on the home page, to install the DD-WRT, just go down here to the Don't Brick It link, and that'll take you to that video. You can install it on the MR7350 if you don't have it done yet. There we go. Also, if you like my video and it helped you out in some way, do me a huge favor. Give me a thumbs up at the bottom there. Give me a like. That helps me on YouTube. It helps YouTube to know that this is a great video, and they'll share it out to other people, which will, you know, help other people as well. So you're not only helping me, you're helping other people to see this great content. If you like my content and want to see more, stay tuned. Subscribe to my channel. As part of that process, hit the bell icon. Then you'll be notified every time I put up a new video, and then you can watch it at your own leisure. Just like always, take care of yourself, take care of others, stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you on the next video.